In 1498, a Portuguese explorer named Vasco da Gama achieved a remarkable feat. He embarked on a journey that would change the course of history and open new horizons for European exploration and trade. He sailed around the southern tip of Africa, a treacherous journey that had never been done before. The Cape of Good Hope was notorious for its perilous conditions, with violent storms and unpredictable currents that had thwarted many before him. Da Gama's goal was to find a new sea route to India, a land renowned for its spices and riches. The traditional overland routes were long and dangerous, controlled by Arab and Ottoman merchants who held a monopoly on the spice trade. After months at sea, navigating through uncharted waters and facing numerous challenges, he finally arrived on the Malabar coast, dropping anchor in the bustling port of Calicut. This port was a major trading hub, teeming with merchants from all over Asia and the Middle East. Da Gama's arrival marked a pivotal moment in history. It was the first time a European had reached India by sea, and it signaled the beginning of a new era of global trade and exploration. It opened up direct trade between Europe and India, bypassing the traditional land routes controlled by Arab merchants. This new sea route allowed the Portuguese to import spices directly, reducing costs and increasing profits. The Portuguese were eager to establish their presence in this lucrative spice trade. They saw an opportunity to dominate the market and gain immense wealth by controlling the supply of spices to Europe. They sought pepper, cinnamon, cloves, and other exotic spices that were highly prized in Europe. These spices were not only used for culinary purposes but also for medicinal and preservative properties, making them extremely valuable. Da Gama's encounter with the Zamarin, the Hindu ruler of Calicut, was initially peaceful. The Zamarin was curious about these new visitors and the goods they brought with them. However, tensions soon arose over trade rights in the presence of Muslim merchants who saw the Portuguese as rivals. The established Muslim traders were wary of the Portuguese intentions and their potential to disrupt the existing trade networks. The stage was set for centuries of European involvement in India, a complex interplay of trade, diplomacy, and conflict. Vasco da Gama's voyage was just the beginning of a long and tumultuous relationship between Europe and the Indian subcontinent, shaping the course of history in profound ways. The Portuguese success in establishing a foothold in India did not go unnoticed. Their early dominance in the spice trade and their strategic control over key maritime routes set a precedent that other European powers could not ignore. Other European powers, eager for a share of the lucrative spice trade, soon followed in da Gama's wake. The allure of exotic spices, precious gems, and other valuable commodities drew them to the Indian subcontinent. The Dutch and English, both skilled seafaring nations, arrived in the early 17th century. Their arrival marked the beginning of a new era of competition and conflict in the Indian Ocean. They sought to challenge Portuguese dominance and establish their own trading empires. The bustling markets of India, teeming with spices, textiles, and other goods, became the battleground for these European powers. The Dutch East India Company, formed in 1602, quickly emerged as a formidable force. With their advanced naval technology and strategic acumen, they were well equipped to compete with the Portuguese. They established trading posts in key locations like Surat, Masulipatam, and Cochin. These posts served as vital hubs for their commercial activities, allowing them to control the flow of goods and resources. The English East India Company, founded in 1600, followed a similar strategy, setting up their first factory in Surat in 1612. Their approach was methodical and calculated, focusing on building strong trade networks. Competition between these European powers was fierce, the stakes were high, and the rewards were immense. Control over the spice trade meant immense wealth and influence back in Europe. The arrival of the Dutch and English marked a new phase in European involvement in India. Their presence was not just about trade, it was about establishing a lasting influence in the region. No longer content with simply trading, these companies began to assert their political and military influence. They realized that to secure their commercial interests, they needed to have a say in the political landscape of India. They formed alliances with local rulers, intervened in local conflicts, and gradually expanded their control over territories. This strategy of combining trade with political and military power set the stage for the eventual colonization of India by European powers. The Dutch and English built forts and trading posts, solidifying their presence. These structures were not just commercial centers, but also symbols of their growing power and influence in the region. The competition between the Dutch, English, and Portuguese reshaped the trade routes and political dynamics of the Indian Ocean. Their relentless pursuit of dominance had far-reaching consequences for the region and its people. Despite the conflicts, these interactions also led to cultural exchanges and the blending of traditions. The European presence in India was a complex tapestry of commerce, conflict, and cultural fusion. The legacy of this period is still evident today in the diverse cultural and economic landscape of India. The arrival of the Dutch and English was a turning point that set the stage for centuries of European involvement in the subcontinent. The French and Danes, though less prominent than the Portuguese, Dutch, and English, also sought to establish their presence in India. Their ventures, while not as extensive, played a significant role in the intricate tapestry of European colonial ambitions in the subcontinent. In 1664, the French East India Company was founded under the patronage of King Louis XIV. This company was established with the aim of competing with other European powers in the lucrative trade of spices, textiles, and other valuable goods from India. They established their main trading post in Pondicherry on the southeastern coast of India. Pondicherry became a vibrant hub of commerce and culture, reflecting the French influence in architecture, cuisine, and local governance. The Danes, though arriving later, managed to gain a foothold in the region as well. Their approach was more modest, but they were determined to carve out their own niche in the competitive landscape of European trade in India. They established their primary trading center in Tranquebar, also known as Tarangambadi, on the Coromandel coast. This settlement became a key point for Danish trade, facilitating the exchange of goods between Europe and India. Though smaller in scale compared to their European counterparts, the French and Danish ventures contributed to the growing European presence in India. Their trading posts became centers of cultural exchange, where European and Indian traditions intertwined. However, their presence was not without its challenges. The harsh climate, unfamiliar diseases, and resistance from local rulers posed significant obstacles to their ambitions. The French in particular found themselves increasingly at odds with the British, who were rapidly expanding their influence in the region. The competition for dominance in trade and territory led to frequent skirmishes and diplomatic tensions. The rivalry between these two European powers would eventually escalate into a series of conflicts known as the Carnatic Wars. These wars were marked by intense battles, shifting alliances, and significant impacts on the local population. The outcome of these conflicts would shape the future of European colonialism in India, with the British ultimately emerging as the dominant power. The increasing European involvement in India inevitably led to clashes with local rulers. Initially, European powers sought to maintain cordial relations with Indian kings and emperors. They presented themselves as traders, seeking access to valuable goods. However, as their ambitions grew, so did their willingness to use force to achieve their goals. The Portuguese, early arrivals in India, faced resistance from rulers like the Zamarin of Calicut. The Dutch engaged in conflicts with various Indian kingdoms, including the Vijayanagara Empire. The English, initially focused on trade, gradually expanded their military presence, leading to confrontations with powerful rulers like the Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb. One of the most significant clashes occurred in 1757 at the Battle of Plassey. This battle pitted the British East India Company against Siraj-ud-Dowlah, the Nawab of Bengal. The British victory at Plassey marked a turning point in Indian history, paving the way for British dominance in the region.